Hey there, ready to unlock some serious potential? We've got a collection of insights here, all about understanding what might be holding us back from those big goals, and even more exciting, what we can do about it. We're going to explore how fear, self-doubt, and even our everyday thoughts play a huge role in reaching our full potential.
It's amazing how much of our potential is tied to things we might not even realize we're doing. We'll be diving deep into how understanding our fears and motivations can lead to incredible breakthroughs.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I see is people struggling because they haven't really figured out their why. It's like having a destination in mind, but not knowing why you want to get there in the first place.
Exactly. It's not enough to just want something you need, that driving force behind it, the fuel that keeps you going, even when things get tough.
So it's more than just setting a goal. It's about understanding the deeper meaning behind it, right?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. If someone told you to make $1 million, you might get motivated for a bit. But if your loved one's life depended on making that million, you'd become unstoppable. That's the power of a strong why.
That's a powerful example. So how do we find our own compelling why? It's easy to get caught up in what we think we should want.
One technique is to ask yourself why repeatedly. Let's say your goal is to get a promotion. Ask yourself, why do I want this promotion? Maybe it's for more money. Then ask, why is more money important? Maybe it's for financial security. Keep asking why until you hit that core emotional reason. Maybe it's to provide a better life for your family or have the freedom to travel. That's your driving force.
I love that. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion to get to the heart of what truly motivates us. Hey, speaking of peeling back the layers, what does compelling mean anyway?
Compelling means something so strong and interesting that you feel forced to pay attention. In this case, a compelling why is something that truly drives you to action even when facing obstacles.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about something that often stops us in our tracks. Fear. It seems like fear is a major roadblock for a lot of people.
Fear is a natural human emotion, but here's the thing. Most fears that hold us back from achieving our goals aren't based in actual danger. They're based on what our minds think might happen in the future.
So we're scared of things that haven't even happened yet. It's like our minds are playing tricks on us.
Exactly. Our minds are incredibly powerful. They can project us into a fearful future, triggering all sorts of physical reactions, anxiety, sweating, increased heart rate, even though the situation we're afraid of doesn't even exist yet.
So our bodies are reacting as if the fear is real, even though it's just a thought.
Precisely. But here's the key. If our minds can conjure up these negative scenarios, they can also imagine positive ones.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Tell me more about that.
Instead of dwelling on what could go wrong, try visualizing the best possible outcome. Imagine yourself succeeding beyond your wildest dreams. If you're afraid of public speaking, picture yourself delivering a captivating presentation, feeling confident and engaging the audience. If you're afraid to start a business, envision the success and the pride of hitting that first million in sales.
So it's about shifting our focus from fear to possibility. It's about training our minds to see the positive potential instead of getting caught up in the what-ifs.
Right, and this shift in perspective can have a huge impact on our actions. If we truly believe in the possibility of success, we're much more likely to take the necessary steps to achieve it.
That reminds me, I have a quick vocabulary question for you. What's the difference between visualizing and imagining? They seem similar.
You're right, they are very close in meaning. Imagining is broader, encompassing any thought or concept you create in your mind. Visualizing specifically involves creating a mental picture or movie like you're seeing it happen.
I get it. So we're not just thinking about success, we're actually picturing it. Now let's move on to something that plays a huge role in all of this. Our thoughts. I've heard it said that most of our thoughts are actually the same ones we had yesterday.
That's true. Studies show that around 90% of our thoughts are repetitive, and unfortunately, many of those thoughts are negative and unhelpful. They're like old tapes playing on repeat in our minds, often without us even realizing it.
So it's like we're stuck in these mental ruts, replaying the same worries and anxieties over and over again. No wonder we can feel stuck.
Exactly. But becoming aware of these thought patterns is the first step to changing them. It's like watching cars go by on a busy street. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you don't jump in front of each one. Just observe your thoughts without judgment.
So it's about creating some distance between ourselves and our thoughts, rather than getting swept away by them.
Exactly. And once you become more aware of your thoughts, you can start to evaluate them. Ask yourself, is this thought serving me? Is it helping me move towards my goals, or is it holding me back?
That's such a powerful question. It forces us to be more mindful and intentional about the thoughts we choose to entertain.
And the next step is consciously choosing a more empowering thought. It's like choosing a different path, one that leads to a more positive and fulfilling destination.
Can you give us an example of how this thought rewiring works in real life?
Sure. Let's say you catch yourself judging someone, maybe a coworker or a friend. Instead of indulging in that judgment, try finding 3 things you appreciate about that person. Maybe they have a great sense of humor, they're always willing to help, or they're incredibly dedicated to their work. This simple shift in focus can help you rewire your thinking towards a more positive and compassionate perspective.
That's a great exercise. It's like we're choosing to focus on the good instead of the bad. And I bet that shift in perspective can have a ripple effect on our overall well-being.
Absolutely. What we focus on expands. By choosing more positive and empowering thoughts, we're essentially creating a more positive and fulfilling reality for ourselves. And speaking of creating a positive reality, let's talk about something that often gets in the way: procrastination.
Ugh, procrastination. We all struggle with it sometimes. What's the key to breaking free from that cycle of putting things off?
Procrastination often stems from a lack of a compelling why. We might have a vague desire to achieve something, but without that deep-seated reason, it's easy to let distractions take over.
So it goes back to that powerful why we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. When we have a strong why, the how often reveals itself naturally. We become driven, not just fleetingly motivated. Think back to that example of making $1 million. If your loved one's life depended on it, you wouldn't be sitting around procrastinating, would you? You'd be taking action, finding creative solutions, and doing whatever it took to make it happen.
That's a great point. It's like the urgency and clarity of our why cuts through all the excuses and distractions.
Exactly. So instead of focusing on all the reasons you can't do something, ask yourself, what's the most important reason I want to do this? Let that why be your driving force. Welcome back to our deep dive into unlocking your potential. It's amazing how much we can achieve when we tap into that inner drive.
I'm ready for more. We've covered so much ground already, but I'm feeling energized and eager to keep exploring these powerful ideas.
Great. Let's delve into a topic that often comes up when we talk about reaching our full potential: the illusion of arrival. Many people believe that achieving a certain goal, whether it's financial success, a dream job, or a perfect relationship, will automatically bring lasting happiness and peace.
Ah, yes, the classic "I'll be happy when" syndrome. We set these external milestones thinking they hold the key to our happiness, but often that's not the case at all.
Exactly. Think about it. How often have you reached a goal only to find yourself quickly setting a new one, still searching for that elusive sense of fulfillment?
It happens all the time. It's like we're on this never-ending treadmill, constantly striving and chasing, but never quite arriving at our destination. So what's the answer then? If achieving goals doesn't guarantee happiness, where do we find that lasting sense of fulfillment?
True fulfillment comes from within, not from external achievements. It's about cultivating a sense of peace, purpose, and self-acceptance that transcends the ups and downs of life.
That makes so much sense. It's about finding that inner anchor that keeps us grounded amidst the storms of life, rather than relying on external factors to bring us happiness. But how do we cultivate that inner connection? It seems like we live in a world that's constantly pulling us outward, demanding our attention and bombarding us with distractions.
You're absolutely right. We live in a world of information overload, constant stimulation, and endless distractions. It's no wonder so many of us feel disconnected from ourselves. That's why carving out space for silence and introspection is so crucial.
I've heard a lot about the benefits of meditation and mindfulness, but honestly, the idea of sitting in silence can be a bit intimidating. It's like all those thoughts and emotions I've been pushing down suddenly come rushing to the surface.
It's true that silence can be uncomfortable at first. Our minds are used to the constant chatter, and when that chatter quiets down, we might feel a wave of anxiety, boredom, or even sadness. But that's all part of the process. Those uncomfortable feelings are like clouds passing through the sky. Acknowledge them, observe them, but don't get attached to them.
So it's about becoming the observer of our thoughts and emotions rather than getting swept away by them.
Exactly. And as we become more comfortable with silence, we start to tap into a deeper level of awareness. We begin to connect with our inner wisdom, our intuition, and that sense of peace that resides within us.
I like the image of connecting with our inner wisdom. It's like we all have this incredible source of knowledge and guidance within us, but we often get so caught up in the external noise that we lose touch with it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And as we cultivate that inner connection, We start to see ourselves and the world around us with more clarity and compassion. We begin to understand that we are both spiritual beings and physical beings interconnected with everything around us.
That brings to mind something we talked about earlier, the power of asking for help. I used to think asking for help was a sign of weakness, but I'm realizing it actually takes a lot of strength and courage to admit we need support.
I completely agree. Asking for help is not about giving up or admitting defeat. It's about recognizing that we are part of a community and that community is there to support us when we need it.
It's like we're all pieces of a puzzle, and when we come together, we create a beautiful, complete picture. Speaking of pieces of a puzzle, can you explain what interconnected means in this context?
Interconnected means that we are all linked together in some way, like threads in a giant web. Our actions and choices affect not only ourselves, but also the people around us and the world at large.
That's a powerful reminder. It makes me think about the impact we have on each other, both positive and negative. So how do we cultivate a more supportive and interconnected community?
It starts with being willing to be vulnerable and authentic with each other. It's about creating safe spaces where we can share our struggles and triumphs without fear of judgment. And it's about showing up for each other, offering support and encouragement when it's needed.
It sounds like creating this kind of community requires us to be more open and compassionate, both with ourselves and with others.
Absolutely. And that openness and compassion can lead to incredible growth and transformation, both individually and collectively.
This is such a rich and insightful conversation. I'm feeling so inspired to cultivate more self-awareness, connect with my inner wisdom, and build a more supportive community around me.
That's fantastic to hear. Remember, it's all about progress, not perfection. Take small steps, celebrate your wins, and never stop learning and growing.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier, the idea that everything is your fault. I know that can be a controversial statement, but I'm intrigued by the wisdom behind it. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course. Now, it's important to clarify that this statement isn't meant to be taken literally. It's not about blaming ourselves for everything that happens in our lives, but rather about taking ownership of our choices and responses.
So it's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we react to the events and circumstances in our lives.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a victim mentality to a creator mentality. Instead of feeling helpless and at the mercy of external forces, we realize that we have the ability to shape our own destiny.
That's a powerful shift. It's about taking responsibility for our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions, rather than blaming others or feeling like we're a victim of circumstance.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
But what about things that are truly outside of our control, like accidents or illnesses? Are you saying those are our fault too?
Not at all. There are many things in life that we simply cannot control, but even in those situations, we still have the power to choose how we respond.
So it's about focusing on what we can control, even in the midst of difficult or challenging circumstances.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner strength and resilience to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and courage. And that brings us to another important point, the importance of self-compassion.
Yes. We've talked about being kind to ourselves, but I think it's worth emphasizing. What exactly does self-compassion mean?
Self-compassion is about treating ourselves with the same kindness, care, and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend. It's about recognizing that we are all imperfect human beings, and that's okay.
It's about silencing that inner critic and replacing it with a voice of love and support. But how do we actually do that? It's easy to get caught up in self-criticism, especially when we make mistakes or face setbacks.
One helpful practice is to talk to yourself as you would talk to a friend who is going through a tough time. Imagine your friend comes to you feeling discouraged or upset about a mistake they made. What would you say to them? Would you criticize them, judge them, or tell them they're not good enough?
Of course not. I'd offer them words of comfort, understanding, and encouragement. I'd remind them that everyone makes mistakes and that this one mistake doesn't define them as a person.
Exactly. And that's the same kind of kindness and compassion we need to extend to ourselves. Instead of beating ourselves up for our mistakes, we can choose to learn from them and move forward with greater wisdom and resilience.
So it's about being our own best friend, offering ourselves that same level of support and understanding that we would offer to someone we love.
Precisely. And as we cultivate self-compassion, we create a more loving and supportive inner environment where we can truly thrive and grow.
This is such a powerful reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in the pressure to be perfect. But true growth comes from embracing our imperfections and treating ourselves with kindness. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I have a quick vocabulary question for you. What does resilience mean in this context?
Resilience refers to our ability to bounce back from adversity, setbacks, and challenges. It's that inner strength that allows us to face difficult situations with courage and determination, and to emerge from those experiences stronger and wiser.
That's a great definition. It makes me think about all the challenges I've overcome in my life and how those experiences have shaped me into the person I am today.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that resilience is not something we're born with. It's something we develop over time through our experiences and how we choose to respond to them.
So it's about cultivating that inner strength and flexibility to adapt and grow even when life throws us curveballs.
Absolutely. And as we cultivate resilience, we become better equipped to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace and determination.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. I'm feeling inspired to embrace my imperfections, practice self-compassion, and cultivate greater resilience. I can't wait to see what else we uncover in the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back. I'm ready to wrap up this incredible deep dive into unlocking our potential.
It's been an amazing journey exploring these powerful concepts together.
We've talked about the importance of finding our why, rewiring our thoughts, cultivating self-compassion, and embracing our imperfections.
And we've touched on how recognizing the illusion of arrival and connecting with our inner wisdom can lead to a more fulfilling life.
It's a lot to take in, but I'm feeling so inspired to put all this wisdom into practice. Where do we even begin?
Remember, it's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's about taking small, consistent steps towards creating the life we truly desire.
So it's more like a marathon than a sprint. We need to pace ourselves and focus on sustainable changes.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways to create lasting change is through the power of practice. Just like we wouldn't expect to become a master pianist overnight, cultivating self-awareness, rewiring our thoughts, and connecting with our true selves takes time and consistent effort.
It's like building a muscle. The more we exercise those mental and emotional muscles, the stronger they become.
Precisely. And the key is to find those practices that resonate with you and incorporate them into your daily routine, whether it's meditation journaling, spending time in nature, or simply taking a few moments each day to pause and reflect, experiment, and discover what works best for you.
It's about creating those rituals that nourish our souls and help us stay connected to our inner wisdom.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. If fear is often an illusion, what incredible things might you achieve if you weren't afraid to fail?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It makes me realize how much of what holds us back is our own self-doubt and fear of failure. But what if we could shift our perspective and see failure as an opportunity for growth and learning?
Imagine the possibilities. What dreams might you pursue if you knew that failure wasn't the end, but simply a stepping stone on the path to success?
That's a really inspiring way to frame it.
Yeah.
Reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the importance of resilience. Maybe facing our fears and learning from our setbacks is how we build that resilience muscle.
You're absolutely right. Every challenge we overcome, every mistake we learn from, makes us stronger and more capable of facing whatever life throws our way.
This has been such an incredible journey. I'm feeling so empowered to step into my full potential, embrace the unknown, and create a life filled with purpose and joy.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Surround yourself with a supportive community, ask for help when you need it, and never stop believing in your ability to achieve amazing things.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us. It's been an honor to dive deep with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep unlocking your incredible potential.